Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of DataPedia. I have been joined by a very formidable I can say, one of the guy which I have followed in my career from pretty long. We have always been, he has always been one of our inspiration, and IIT Kharagpur pass out, Mr. Jay Mishra. I have been following you, sir, from pretty long time, and you being in data field from so long, and currently we as a youngster now jumping in. I know you look as young, as formidable as you used to look around 10 years back, but I would like you to briefly introduce yourself, sir.
Thanks, Shivesh, and pleasure to be here. I am Jay Mishra, and I lead product and technology for a data integration and AI company, Astera, and been in this field for over 20 years, long time. And yeah, I've spent my career going over pretty much the evolution of data engineering, data integration, data science, going into big data, and of course,
Mhm.
machine learning. And now we are at generative AI, going into agentic world.
Agentic
The
word,
entire
yeah.
evolution, I've been a party to that. I've switched a lot of hats. My typical day is a mix of looking at the roadmaps of the products and what is happening in technology, and then a lot of whiteboarding for our customers who are building their own solutions, mostly based on their data ecosystem and AI blend. This is where we
Mm.
reside at the intersection of data and AI. And then a lot of time actually I spend reading up about what is happening these days. In past couple of years, I see that things are changing rapidly. It's very difficult to keep up, even with someone who has spent a lot of time in this field. I see that now I'm out for a long weekend and things have changed. It's kind of hard to keep up, but yes, I'm trying my best.
Right. So one thing which is very common around means you have seen a lot of transformation in your years, but when we came to this world, we were mostly working on the software side, and from the software side, the revolution started. We heard the big data bubble, right? And now it's all about the AI bubble, or in AI now the split has started. People started talking about generative AI and all, and suddenly it has now bumped up into an agentic AI world. So one thing which we have formidably agreed, or we have seen previously, it used to take at least a decade for a technology to change the landscape this much, right? But the way this revolution, or this the evolution of technology is happening in current date, it is very, and you very rightly said, it is very hard to keep up. Now, one thing which we are seeing very commonly, and it is one of my personal experience, which we are seeing, that with this technology enhancement, what is happening, people are always going and investing in these technologies, but by the time the ROI, they start seeing the ROI, the technology itself gets changed. So with AI coming into system, how do you see the ROI is getting measured, or how do you think the current landscape will be?
Absolutely. And this is a question that I get asked almost on a weekly basis, maybe sometimes more than once in a week.
Hmm.
Um, ROI, of course, the CFOs and anyone who has access to the purse, the money people, they always want to see ROI. And
Yeah.
that's how the investment works. And we look at AI, and I would say AI post Gen AI. Before that, there was a kind of a easier path. The pace was not this, I would say, strong. So recently, since things are changing rapidly, it's difficult to have one standard model that is going to be applicable, and you can use that to measure ROI. So this is how I start in my answering. And what I say is that at this point, you're looking at AI the wrong way. You don't look
Hmm.
at ROI immediately. You look at basically ROI is an investment. Now expect, of course, a lot of return from it. It is an investment in your capabilities. And it's transformative. It is as big or actually bigger than even internet. So start looking into investing in it, and still, of course, there has to be a model to measure ROI. So for that, my answer would be that look at kind of EGR kind of model, right? So efficiency, growth, and risk, right? So look at all
Hmm.
three factors, and then apply some of the established models, such as create a baseline of where the productivity was, and then implement a solution. And even for the implementation, I recommend that start small.
Yeah.
Pick an area where you see a real need, and a very small area, implement a solution based on clean data. By the way, I'll emphasize on that throughout our discussion. Clean data is the key. Based on clean data, you implement a solution, and then you measure from the baseline where the EGR stands,
Hmm.
and you will see
Hmm.
the delta. And that delta, of course, may or may not be quantifiable. You cannot put a dollar value at this point, but to a large extent you can see that the improvement is happening. If improvement is happening, you keep investing. So that's how I would say, at least at this stage, the leaders should be looking at ROI for AI investments.
So one very good point you brought about is the data, the clean data around it.
Mhm.
So I know US is one of a pretty mature market around it, right? So when this data transformation or the digital transformation was happening, US was one of the market which has picked up very early. So now when this AI evaluation is happening, actually the US customer has a pretty good data platform which is being set up, right? I still don't see it to at that level, but at least they have a mature data platform setup. But there are new markets which are coming up, other markets which are now, and now when you go and ask for budget to these leaders, they will always come and tell you what AI value you are giving to it. Right now, I get very baffled when I they directly come and ask you what AI value you come up with, right? So in all those cases, how do you think we should take it as a journey? So it should be data platform first, then you should pick up, so like how start small then scale fast, kind of that strategy, right? So on your value, on your day to day talk to the CFOs or the CTOs, do you generally go and pitch the data platform as part of their AI journey?
Absolutely. I like to use this one liner, and it says that if your data is dirty, your AI is blind. Your
Hmm.
AI cannot see anything good. So, garbage in, garbage out has been around for decades. People knew about it, and it is more applicable. I would say, really, it is at the heart of any AI solution is good quality data. If you don't have data, AI is useless.
Hmm.
So, definitely, it is a prerequisite. I am not mincing my words. I definitely recommend whenever anyone is looking at AI implementation, I do recommend that you look into your data first, make sure your data is organized properly. And we do see regularly implementations even on state side. A lot of large organizations, they assume that the data is all good and ready to go, but it is not. The problem is that, or the challenge is that the data is not, or clean data is not basically that, okay, here is a goal, once you reach there, it is always going to be there. New data streams keep coming in, so it's a continuous process. So if it is a continuous process, what is going to happen? You have to keep up with that, and you
Hmm.
have to make sure that every time a new data stream is added, and with the data lakes, data going into one place, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's very muddy lake, right? So I'm taking uh, the analogy further. So what happens that the data that is coming in, there are different architectures, of course, data lakehouse and data warehouse and data lakes, but it is a continuous process. And as a result, what happens that if you're not keeping up with cleaning the data, making sure that the right quality data is available for um, analytics, of course, that was the original purpose, but even for data science and generative AI, quality data is very important. And quality is not only just scrubbing the data, it has a lot of things, the data governance, a lot of things basically come together. So when I say quality, I mean basically data that is ready to be
Hmm.
used for AI.
Right. So I have seen people start dumping structured, unstructured, and all in their lake solutions, right? And then they start building solution to it. So one part, when this AI evaluation, entire AI evaluation was happening, there was talk of generative AIs, right? And generative AI was always good for your day to day work. But when you start thinking around an enterprise wide implementation or enterprise for a day to day work for a developer like me, or for a resource like me, it always adds value because it brings from multiple sources and things. But for enterprises, whoever wanted to implement, so have you come across any successful implementation around generative AI, or are they able to generate values in that?
Absolutely. I would refer to this Nanda report from MIT that came out
Hmm.
a couple of weeks ago, and people were, it went viral very quickly
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it says that 95% of the solutions are failing, only
Okay.
5% they're generating value, right? And we do see that. So what
Hmm.
happened that in enterprise, whenever you're implementing a solution, and generative AI are supposed to give you, the decision making on demand. That's how people see it,
Hmm.
right? So if you have a workflow, you want to automate the entire workflow, and as a natural evolution of a rule based workflow, you're saying that no, it is not rule
Hmm.
based. At that node, I want to make a call to decision maker that is an AI, and giving the guardrails, it's supposed to make
Hmm.
the decision, and then I move forward. So that's how the AI based applications are supposed to work. Now, if you look at the guardrails and the context, and if you look at even that Nanda report from MIT that talks about context engineering, so
Hmm.
context engineering is the key. Now, context engineering is all about providing the right context in the right way. So, at any step in the workflow, if you are at that state or at that node, you need to know that what is the right context. And what is the context? For enterprises, it is all data. So
Yeah.
data has to be there, and it has to be done properly. And of course, the right connectors you need, and clean data you need. And then, of course, it's a combination of the system prompts and dynamic prompts and the RAG layer. So where you need to have a context provided by some kind of vector search, there you're getting the right context. So combine all of that, and you're building the context. And that context is the key. And if you can provide the right context, the wins are going to be there. So we
Right.
did implement a few solutions. Going back to your question, we did implement a few solutions successfully in past 18 months or so.
Hmm.
One example that comes to my mind is this entire workflow we automated from beginning all the way to end for a mortgage origination company in Europe.
Hmm. Hmm.
European, some of the European nations actually they got a lot of digital nomads and who are buying properties, and they are from sometimes Asia, sometimes Americas. They have no local history, right? So they get all these documents from all different sources, and the document of income verification could be from Australia, could be from India, could be from
Hmm.
China, wherever it is. And now
Hmm.
you're in a European system, so you need to take the document, all different types, verify that okay, hey, this is a pay stub, this is your tax return, what not. So
Hmm.
right,
Hmm.
so there is
Hmm.
a the context, of course, the documents are there. So this whole processing of the workflow, that you need to verify the income, you need to verify their other credentials that you are loan worthy or not, then approve the loan process, then have human in the loop. So it's an entire workflow. So basically it's a business
Right.
process beginning all the way to the end, and it contains a lot of data, as you can see. So we implemented a solution that is able to go from the beginning, interface with the user, fetch any data that they have, including their sometimes uh, these income verifications documents, sometimes even
Hmm.
more complicated stuff that is required for compliance, for European mortgage banking compliance and all that. So all of that user is uploading, and AI is able to use all of that information, make a decision, and if the confidence level is at certain level, it's a yes. If it is below that, bring a human in the loop,
Bring him in the-
and that human makes a decision about if it is good or not. And so that's how we implemented the entire end-to-end solution. And the example that I gave is one specific vertical about
Mhm.
mortgage banking, but we do have many such implementations. We have done over 9 or 10 implementations actually in similar format, where we
Okay.
look at an entire application of a generative AI as basically an extension of a workflow. And
Hmm.
at each node, we are providing the right context with the data, data extraction, quality data fetching using connectors, building the right context, and then, of course, involving human in the loop. So entire AI flow, I would say. That's how, and the way I look at it is actually this is the new way of building solutions. So
Solutions. Yeah.
so this is actually the entire solution that is based on two things. One is the your quality data that you're able to fetch from wherever it is, and second is basically using generative AI, where you are passing the guidelines and the guardrails you're putting in for compliance and all, including human in the loop, and build a solution end to end.
So the workflows in our previous days when we started early, we used to have a concept called workflows or the orchestration layer,
Yep.
right? Now these workflows and orchestration now has been enhanced with their MCP protocols and all and have been built. That is what currently people are calling it as an agent, right? But I have seen that people are also misusing it. Uh, lot of companies are even showing that they are getting AI project, but what at back end they are doing is they are just orchestrating things, right? So do you think that differences, and specifically when they are releasing their income sheets and all, and they are specifically telling that their AI revenue is this much and all, and that's how their spreadsheets are now coming in. So do you think it is right to differentiate all those things like that? That should we differentiate the implementation based on it, or it is just the old way of working?
The way I see it is it's the phase of learning for a lot of people.
Hmm.
including enterprises and including the leaders. And it's kind of natural because
Right. Okay.
things are evolving so rapidly. Everyone
Hmm.
has their own way of describing the same concept. Just look at even MCP. If you ask
Hmm.
about MCP, just what we are in September, about
Hmm.
10 months ago, no one even knew about MCP. What is
No,
MCP?
absolutely, absolutely.
So Anthropic, of course, now decided to do something, and then everyone
Hmm.
decided, okay, hey, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Then came A to A. So these things are evolving rapidly, and depending on how at the top of things you are, some people basically,
Hmm.
even the leaders, sometimes they take their time to get to that point. So someone who is not there yet, they will have difficulty. They've
Hmm.
heard the buzzwords that MCP is there, and then A to A is there. That is basically, I look at them as means to achieve to get to a goal. And how we are using it internally, I've seen implementations where there is just one LLM call, and there is a system
Hmm.
call, and it is sitting somewhere in your flow, and that's it. It's an agentic solution. Hey, as long as it is doing the work, you're getting the end goal and good results. I'm for that.
I feel underline sorry to cut you, sir. I feel the underlying concept remains the same, right? We used to talk about quality, we used to talk about integration. Now we used to talk about it in data field. Now those things are coming together, and when we are talking about data, we are just building a layer above it where we are including the LLMs and all those parts together, so that the solutionize, when you give a solution, you can give a formidable solution. And if that solution does not fit, or your interest does not fit, you bring human in the loop, you bring human tasks over there, and then you give them the right decision. When you were talking about implementing this solution, you told about recent implementation which you have done it in financial. So which industry do you think currently is adopting AI at very fast pace? I mean, is it that every industry it is transforming, or is it now at start of certain industry which will incline towards AI completely, and then other industries will pick up?
So I see a very similar pattern that
Hmm.
we have seen over the years for data. So in data, if something new comes, like there's a new trend in data,
Hmm.
and there are certain verticals that they jump at it quickly. They are quick because they're data rich, maybe, and they already have all the information sitting there somewhere on some server, and they can use that. So business intelligence, right? That's the kind of the mothership, right? That's where so basically the whole purpose is that you have all the information, and using that information, you want to make intelligent decisions for your business. You want to do forecasting properly, you want to strategize properly, and based on and it has to be informed decision based on your data. So that's the original idea, and I don't see that changing. Even with the AI, the goal mostly remains that the decision making
Hmm.
has to be done properly, right? So I see the same pattern being played out here. So data rich industries, they are early adopters, and the ones they don't have a lot of data, they are kind of a slow to adapt. And if you look at the verticals where we have had success, BFSI for sure. I see that that is retail. That is another one that is where we see a lot of data, and
Lord, yeah.
therefore they are sitting on gold mine. Right? If you have that kind of data, your decision making is going to be more accurate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If you look at Gen AI, the way I describe it is basically it's a near human level reasoning, one API
Hmm.
call away. That's how it is, right? So whether you're making a call to Claude Sonnet, or you're making a call to OpenAI GPT-5, or whatever you choose, in all the scenarios, they are stateless. They have no memory. Every single time you create the context and give it to the API, saying that, okay, here is your context, and here is what I want to decide. Can you make the decision for me?
Right.
Isn't it how every single API call work? That's basically essentially what we are doing is we are making a call to an API to get the decision, and that is based on the right data. And the industries that are sitting on the good quality data, they have all this information ready, and you are able to engineer it. By the way, it is an engineering
Right.
problem as well. You should be able to engineer it, and once you have that right context, the decision making is going to be great. It's like humans too. If you have all the good information, you make a good decision. If you have not so much of information, or half low quality information, your decision making is going to be not that good. So that's how it works, and we see that all the data rich verticals, they are doing much better compared to the verticals where there is not a lot of data available already.
Right. So BFSI has always been one sector which is very compliance heavy, right? And
Yes.
it has been one of the major problem for innovations, if I will say, because of
Yep.
the compliances. Now, retail remains very open, right? You can do a lot of experiment. The
experiments.
data also floats around internet like anything. You can bring a lot of things from internet also, right? But BFSI becomes very challenging, and specifically adopting technology for their players, for those players, becomes very difficult. Now when we think of AI, we have always thought of good side, but there are always difficult side or the other side of it. So
Mhm.
how are means how BFSI is actually handling that? Is it governance or something? What you are thinking?
Absolutely. So, a great question, by the way. So, I would like to add the disclaimer that this is our own experience.
Okay.
So, retail, of course, and if you ask me from neutral perspective that where it
Hmm.
should be, my answer would be different. So, I would say marketing. Marketing is where you have freedom, complete freedom, because you
Yeah,
can do
yeah,
experiment
absolutely.
one today, and tomorrow could be something totally different. And the data is, as you said, freely available, and
Hmm.
you can get data from a variety of sources, and you can make those campaigns that can change every day. So marketing and retail, these two should be the leaders. We have seen success in those fields as well. But BFSI, the reason I mentioned that is a lot of our
Hmm.
customers come from that vertical, and some from retail as well, but a lot from BFSI. And there, what we see is that among the data, I think one type of data that is unstructured data,
Hmm.
documents. Let me say that actually this is something that I saw actually in one of the reports. I think there is a report from this group from Wharton. There was a report about the different use cases and what kind of data is more conducive. And one of them was that if your data is residing in these documents, the document processing, that is.
Right.
So document processing has gone through its evolution of extraction with the rule base and
Hmm.
NLP, and finally with the generative AI. What has happened that it has completely opened it up, because now the
Hmm.
context reading and using the whole vector DBs and the RAG search, that technology has suddenly gone to a next level altogether. And it has kind of unlocked a different kind of data altogether. And if you look at the documents and all that, who is rich with that data? It's going to be BFSI. It's going to be healthcare, actually, a lot of healthcare data. So these
Right.
verticals basically, they realize that, okay, hey, I've been using only my, say, a quarter of the data. Remaining 75% of the data was in all these documents that was very difficult to bring out and index and use it. Now we can. So that's why I see that, at least in my opinion, I've seen that a lot of excitement and interest about using that data to implement AI. Going back to your question about how do they handle it, uh,
Hmm.
it's a challenge for sure, because compliance remains. Even if you look at the mortgage I was talking about, the RESPA, TILA, all these compliances, these are acts from 1960s and 70s in America. So those acts have been around for such a long time, and the compliance reports you have to file. If you make a simple mistake, there's going to be penalties. And AI coming into picture, it becomes a challenge. But this challenge remains pretty much everywhere. Compliance is a challenge, but even if you make a bad decision, the cost is there. Cost is much higher. That's how I see it. The
Right.
cost is much higher in these verticals. So it becomes the top priority to address this challenge of ensuring that only the quality decisions make it to the destination, to the end of the pipeline, or end of the workflow. And for that, there are certain patterns that have emerged. One that I see that you mentioned already, that is governance. One that I see is that the role of the business analyst and the people who are earlier custodians of or knowledge, right? So the
Hmm.
subject matter experts, their role we have seen evolving. They are basically the people who are creating these guidelines, right? So they are the ones who are going through. Let's say we are implementing a solution for a specific use case, and for that use case, all the guardrails versus guideline that goes into
Hmm.
your system prompt. But the guardrails, this cannot be done, this can be done, verify this, verify that. List of these guardrails. And the drift is real, right? So what happens that you implement a solution, and let's say that you implemented with 4.0 in mind, and then came 5, and then suddenly your solution stopped working, or started to go in different direction, right? So you need to make sure that to stop the drift, you have to implement those guardrails, and those act as kind of data quality checks, equivalent,
Right.
parallel, I'm
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you implement that, and if it is veering off the path, you'll be notified, and you go back and look into it. Actually, we have seen there are tools now that are able to version, like the versioning that we used to have source code. Same way we are versioning for your guardrails, that V1, V2, and you can do source control, go back to merge, and so on and so forth. So that has become its own stream. So guardrails, making sure that you are applying your own compliance on AI
Mhm.
internally using a process. So that's a pattern I see being applied frequently. And then, of course, the human in the loop is always important for all decision
Right.
making. There are certain built-in mechanisms where perplexity scores and all that have been around for some time, where you can look at the threshold, look at the confidence level, and the confidence level, if it is below certain threshold, then what you do is you always involve human in the loop, and that ensures that it is reviewed before actually it is going in action.
Right. So when we used to implement, specifically when during the data domain, when we used to implement the master data management, we used to always play around structured data, right? There used to be companies in India, specifically when we say back offices of US, right? Most of the companies, which is the BPO sector or the KPO sector in India, what they used to do was they used to do all these data cleaning works, right? They used to take this document, then they used to pick out those datas and start inputting those datas. Those used to go to databases and become a structured data, then we used to pump. So it used to be a, I think, 6 7 months of data cleaning project itself, right? Which this, now with evaluation of AI, specifically when you are able to scrap all those documents directly and bring that unstructured data, this master data management space also has evolved so much, right? It is just not about structured, but it is now more about how you are handling the unstructured part of it, because a lot of gold mine can actually resides and it can actually generate a real value. So I was talking to another person for a BFSI domain, and they did this kind of implementation where they used to handle this unstructured data, specifically the documents. There was a lot of decision making happening on the table with the documents, which they were able to actually scrap and put it over there. And a simple loan giving process was cut short to, I think, 1 day for them, from which used to take around 17 18 days, the best case possible for them, because they used to scrap that data very properly, have those guardrails, quality rules built in all over, and the human or those custodians was involved only when they used to pass that threshold limit. So I see that BFSI has a great potential, which can really make this great thing, and that's how the adoption actually is happening. That's how we were thinking that how do we measure the ROI actually. It is by implementing a particular use case, or is it like how much amount you are saving for a company? So that's remains a very formidable question, that how do we see the value in a implemented project? So what is your sense around it?
Yes, so it's. I think we briefly touched upon this topic earlier, but looking at the implementations that we have done, so I purely speak from my experience.
Hmm.
So, looking at the implementations that we have done in past, we look at the entire business, and we have, of course, discussions about which area that you see where you can reliably document the entire process. If you can describe to me the entire process, and you see the variables are not a whole lot, like where you are seeing that, okay, hey, step A this happens, step B this happens, step C someone reviews it, even if it is a human reviewing, no problem at all. Expert systems, of course, have been around for some time. They're expert system decision making trees, software systems, right? So the different APIs, sometimes applications are playing that role. For example, you mentioned this loan approval system. So
Right.
underwriter, the people who decide the loan is given or not, they will basically input certain credit history and all that, and see that, okay, this person is worthy or not. So those were applications actually. You, in that
Hmm.
application, you punch in your information, or you must have some API call, push a button, and then you see some results. Maybe it'll take some time, it'll give you the results. So the human used to work with all these different systems. So this is what we ask, that if you look at any business process pipeline, review that, and if it can be close to linear, if it is not, has
Hmm.
does not a lot of branches, and that's what my experience has been, those are the easiest ones to start with. Go
Hmm.
with those, and there, if you can implement the solution, you already know that what is the cost of that, maintaining that solution earlier, how much you're spending, the compensation of to the person, the software solution, how much you're spending on that, your infrastructure and all that, so you can get that number. And now you are replacing this with the solution. Run them in parallel, maybe, do A/B testing, and run it for a month, couple of months, and see that, how much is, and this solution, once it is implemented, how much human capital is needed in that, how much
Right.
is software solution, the cost of that. Compare these two, A/B testing, and you will see that where the lift is. And once you see that the delta is there, well, that's it. Once you see, we have seen this thing, once you show
Yeah.
one win, after that the budgets flow. because they
Flows.
the decision makers, they're seeing that, okay, hey, out of these 20 pipelines or the 20 processes, look at them, they automated one using AI, and the cost saving is 30% or 40% or 100, sometimes basically close to 90%,
Mm,
right? So
mm.
if you get to that point, after that, of course, you have to go about it methodically. You have to pick the right ones, the best ones in the beginning. So you have to prioritize the ones where you can show clearly the win, and that's how you go about it. So that's what my approach has been, and so far we have been able to show a lot of wins.
Awesome, awesome. So just deviating a little bit, right? Initially, when we were kids, right? So these refrigeration techniques came in, right? And one of the company which really made huge amount of success out of it was Coca-Cola, right?
Yep.
Making drinks around it. The technology remains with the major players, but the actual benefit was extracted from companies like Coca-Cola. Now, when you see the current world, AI, right, specifically the hardware side, which is being built now, big data centers are being thrown in, and all those things, huge amount is putting up. But who do you think is in current world will be the next Coca-Cola, right? Building over it.
Absolutely. See, the hero projects, that's how I look
Hmm.
at, basically kind of another comparison to that that time when people used to bring ice boxes and
Hmm.
use, that is a hero project, right? You can find one and show that, okay, I'm able to do it, but once that ice is gone, it's melted, it's gone. To bring refrigeration, and then even next level, to bring refrigeration to industrial level, right, where you can have the cold storage and all that, that's the evolution even of that technology. And Coca-Cola, of course, was a party to that, and they made all the impact.
Right.
So if you to draw a parallel with what is happening in our world in past a few years, I see that the hero projects, basically the small ones, they're actually, they do have some value, by the way,
Hmm.
because they
Hmm.
show that they give confidence to the decision makers that it can be done. But definitely the right way to go about it is to build the refrigeration systems, right? And that's where having the solid foundation, where we are looking at all the information, the data. I'm going back to that, bringing back all, getting all the data. Wherever you have the data is gold. Basically, this is where the real data is new oil has been. We have been saying it for like a
Right.
decade or so now. Data remains oil, right? Data basically is all the experience of the enterprise that is in bits and bytes, right? So we want to make sure that that data is captured and readily available for building solutions. That is my foundation. And that foundation, I think, is the key. So build that foundation. And even for AI, there are two things that I recommend. One is that build the culture of
Hmm.
using AI in the right way. And this is mindset shift. So you have to make sure that the teams are trained, the teams, they understand the value of it, and they change the whole mindset about looking at any problem solving, anywhere troubleshooting that is happening, problem solving is happening, how you can apply AI. So it is not limited to just IT and certain AI solutions. If you're in HR, should look at how to use AI. If you're in marketing, look at how to use AI. If you are in sales, still look at how to use AI, right? So all different areas should be looking at AI as a new way of doing things. So that is a mindset. And third is basically the tooling for AI
Hmm.
and making sure the processes they're right. That is very important to. And there, of course, there is a certain tools that you don't want to build on your own, like foundation models and all that. They are there, so you assume that they keep evolving, but make sure that you are exposed to all of them. Don't get tied to just one, like, just for example, I've seen that some people, or some of the companies actually, that OpenAI is everything. Sure, they have, given that they have two-thirds of the market, they are the leaders, they do amazing things. But for certain
Hmm.
things, for example, look at what happened with the code editors like the IDE and
Hmm.
all that. Anthropic is the leader, and that basically now OpenAI is catching up on that. So depending on and the way the things will change, we no one knows. So make sure you're exposed to all the top ones, whether it is Google or OpenAI or Anthropic or Grok XAI, that
Hmm.
is. So make sure that they are all in your stack, and the building blocks, that is the vector DBs, that is the RAG solutions. You need to
Right.
have that expertise in house. People should understand the RAG at certain depth, and combine these two. So you already have the data ecosystem, you have the foundation for the AI solutions, and this will keep evolving, of course. But make sure that you're ready with the solid foundation, and then the AI mindset. Combine all three, and your organization is going to be a winner.
Right. So that's a very good advice, and specifically for companies like us, right, who are starting early, who are starting young, right, being in one of the fastest growing economy now. So what differently? So we have always been part of now a lot of transformation, specifically data related transformation, right? So at our company, what we are doing differently is building small little agents, which are actually, and we are bundling it, right. Let's say if we are going for a hotel industry, we are seeing that how a person, when during a check-in, right, he just checks in and he has a formidable data platform, the company has a formidable data platform set up, and his experiences is elevated, right? So instead of doing things on emails or taking the call and calling each others, they are agents which can be deployed over the MDM system, having the MCP set up there, right? So young startup companies like us, what an AI advice will you be? Is this the right approach, building agents, formalizing it for different domains or different industries, and solutionize and sell it as a package? What kind of advice do you give us?
First of all, let me start with this. You guys have been doing fantastic job, and kudos. Amazing team in place, and a lot of success I see. I wish you continued success. There's a lot of hard work I know behind the scenes, so I wish you all the best for the future success. Now, coming to using AI or agentic solution at this point, you are on the right track. That's how I see that a lot of companies that we work with, they are implementing it depending on the size of the company, depending on the maturity of the company, and there are different levels, but that is the right track. I have seen, or actually, let's take an example of this report came out from Walmart.
Hmm.
So Walmart's CTO, they did this interview, I think, about a month ago, and they talked about how they let loose all their teams to build small agents in all
Hmm.
different areas. So they have, I don't know the exact number, but hundreds of agents lying around all over the organization. And now they're trying to make sure that they're able to use them as Lego blocks, building blocks to put
Okay.
together
Yeah.
and create a master agent. So master agent for different areas. So they'll have like one master agent for the entire sales or the outward customer facing. One is for internal uses or all the employees, and third is going to be for their partners. So now that agent does all the routing to different agents. So there are specialized agents that are doing specialized work. But if you look at even that solution for a company like Walmart, such a big company,
Hmm.
the building blocks are these small agents. So that's how the future is, that if you can find a specific problem and you are able to solve it, and that is done reliably. Now, this agent can become part of a larger agents organization, right? And
Right.
MCPs, that's what they're doing, right? With the MCP and A2A, as long as you have the right tools defined, your agent is going to be more powerful if the quality of tools is pretty good, and the MCPs, that is. And once your agents are ready, you can have the right agents definition, and they can communicate with each other. So it's like going back to our programming analogy, right? You start small, divide and conquer. So if you are starting with a very small use case, and actually we have seen so far that is these agents, the small agents, those are very clearly defined focused agents. They are much higher in terms of accuracy of their decision making compared to more complex agents. So it's natural that it is going we are going to evolve in that direction, and more implementations will happen at smaller scale, at small
Yeah.
level, for these focused agents. And then there is a way to orchestrate them, right? So absolutely,
Absolutely.
I would completely agree with the direction you are taking, and definitely suggest that find areas and find pain points, clearly defined objective of that agent, build the solution, test it, and then later on, of course, they'll find their own place in the larger organization of the agents.
Sometimes the solution remains in front of you and you have to visualize it. When you told about this Lego block, this has really stuck with me now, that if you will see a child playing with a Lego block, right, and it is doing the same thing what we are doing with technology today. If we are able to build those small agents and can refurbish or kind of reuse all those things to build a solution together, so that's a great piece of advice, and that will remain very close to my heart. Yes, sir. Thank you for your time today, and it was great and pleasure speaking to you.
Absolute pleasure. And again, I wish you guys all the continued success. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.